I mean, this is the same thing with nostalgia with any video game you played in the past. I loved the game Gothic. Went back and played it. It's terrible. Can't stand playing it because I'm spoiled now with all my quality of life improvements. But
Yes.
that's the thing. Like any nostalgia game has that nostalgia, because it was your childhood. It was, young days or whatever. But, gaming's progressed hugely, made leaps and bounds, and we just got to remember that.
Good old Sada Plays did a poll on Twitter. Did you see this one, Gecko?
I didn't know. What was it on?
Arma 2 DayZ mod is better than DayZ Standalone. I'm sharing my screen so you guys can see it as well. And given his audience, of course, the result was going to be that most people agree with him. Whenever influencers do polls like this, a lot of people are just going to agree with them because that's what they're saying. A better question would have been, what is better, Arma 2 DayZ mod or DayZ Standalone? I made a comment, though, Gecko. Did you ever play Arma 2 DayZ mod, mate?
I never did, no. I was never part of that generation.
I watched a lot of footage of it, watched a lot of people play the game back in the day. That's when I first discovered it. It was before Standalone got announced, and I was so excited for the DayZ Standalone as well. But I made a comment that the poll wasn't specific enough because my understanding, and I believe some of you guys on the panel here have got more experience with Arma 2 than I do, but there were so many different variations of Arma 2 DayZ. There was Epoch, there was, Lad, you know more about it, mate. What else was there?
I think I could be wrong here. I think there was Epoch, Overpoch.
Overpoch, that's the one I was struggling with.
There was it was kind of like separated in like three different segments, so to speak. Then you had like your main PvP where there's not really much base building or anything like that, and then you had your base building ones and whatever, and then you had your vanilla experience, so to speak. And yes, I am going by Soviet Womble's videos about DayZ because I can't fucking remember it any other way. But DayZ, how do I say this? Arma 2 DayZ mod is not better than Standalone. It's not. In terms of technology, in terms of pretty much everything, it's just not better. And it is straight up. It is straight up. What's the word I'm looking for? Nostalgia kicking in, straight up. Yeah. How people can think
rose tinted glasses
from, like, how people think a 10-year-old mod, pretty much 10-year-old mod, is better than, yes, the Standalone has had a very rough development, but it's in a much better place than the mod ever was. Mm-hmm. Might not have as much content in the standard, but exactly, it's.
Sada's right with some of his comments here, Jad. Arma 2 was pretty much a complete game, so therefore you had access to choppers and armored vehicles, and Standalone, as he says here, doesn't even have a push bike.
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to compare the Arma 2 mod and Standalone, because Standalone has kind of gone its own direction, and the Arma 2 mod, although it was the original vision, it's very different to the Standalone now. I don't think they're very comparable. Certainly, DayZ Standalone nowadays is a much more recent game, so the technology is better. But to say that DayZ Standalone is better than the mod is not fair to say, because you can't overall say it's better. It's completely opinion. It's subjective.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I mean, I will admit, I've never played mod. I didn't even have a PC that was capable of playing games back then, right? I was so but I used to watch a lot of Frankie on PC way back when, and that's the thing. It's like, whereas there is a lot of content in the current Standalone that was never in, say, like the DayZ mod. And it is an absolute shame that content never really came out, and it's been teased for absolute years. there's got to be an actual valid reason instead of like they couldn't be asked. Like there's just there's no way about that. But I just personally can't see how the Arma 2 mod could ever be better than what Standalone has now.
Dancer Jesus is in chat. Sorry, Dump. Yeah. Dancer Jesus is in chat saying he can't understand why the helis never got ported. Apparently, modders brought them back into 0.62 and they work perfectly. I think this comes back again to what Spud alluded to last week on the podcast, in that if they did bring in all these military vehicles and everything that Arma had, what would modders do with the game then? They'd basically jump the gun on Arma 4, Dumpgra.
I guess. I mean, it's kind of silly to think that BI cares about what modders can do with the game, but I guess. It's not like they've cared about what the modders wanted to do with the game in the past, and I know they've been working with us better, but like, I'm not sure if that's the real reason why they haven't put helicopters in. I think the biggest reason is vehicles. Even cars on high pop servers are undrivable. Can you imagine helicopters on those kind of servers? Like, it just wouldn't work. So they probably want to fix their vehicle engine background sim before they ever try to introduce such a thing.
Yeah, I mean, this how would I word this? It's like
with words.
No, I'm going to use fucking sign language, mate. No, but it's like when you really think about DayZ Standalone right now as its core, would it really be beneficial? I mean, yeah, sure, you have your end game kind of like, oh, I've got this like BTR kind of vehicle or armored carrier or whatever. I don't fucking know. In the grand scheme of what DayZ Vanilla is trying to achieve, that doesn't really go out well. Like, the vehicles that they have brought in, they're not military, they're all civilian. The military weapons, there's quite a few, but it's even the latest one, you couldn't really do much with it. And, you know, the landscape in general, where it's certainly got some military elements, and there's a lot of elements that they've brought in the past, it hasn't really garnered towards the major PvP, which people have always been asking for. It's always based on the survivalist aspect. Why would a general survivor who has barely any military training, if any, be able to pilot, say, for example, a fucking helicopter or learn how to drive a tank or APC or whatever? It does not make any sense. I mean, I am incredibly using a lot of Corpium right now, but at the same time, it's like that kind of stuff, whereas it would be cool to have in Standalone, there's no point. There's really no point. It's not what Bohemian Interactive is going for at the end of the day.
With expansion, they added helicopters. You can go from one point to the end of the other point of the map in like less than 5 minutes. It completely makes the entire 256 kilometer Shinaris map look small. You know?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, sure, it's cool to have helicopters and that, but at the end of the day, it's not really what I would imagine. Obviously, I'm not fucking gospel or anything like that, but I imagine that's not what I'm gonna fucking preach it, boy. Let's go. But no, it's like there's no point at the end of the day for Standalone to have stuff like that. Again, it would be cool, but it's just pointless. They want to try, I would imagine, they want to try and focus more on like getting some, you know, really cool weapons that are in the means of what the video game's trying to go for, and have those survivalist aspects reintroduced. But obviously it takes time. You know, people complain that modders can bring all this stuff and the DayZ dev team can't. Modders can just do it. They don't have deadlines or guidelines or specific... Yeah, that they can just make it, and it's why some mods are, to say it plainly, a bit trash. Whereas the DayZ dev team and any other development team, they have to prioritize, they have to do a lot of balancing, bug testing, all sorts of stuff, even before like the public can see it, and people don't really understand that. But again, that's besides the main point, and I'm going off in a tangent because fuck it, why not?
I mean,
but
there's also the other argument that why DayZ doesn't have helicopters and stuff is because DayZ is technically the beta for the Infusion engine.
It actually is. It actually fucking is, to be fair. Like, there's no point in creating all this like this tech for the new game and then port it back over to the standalone. They tried with the M16A2. That's in the new Arma game. I think, yeah, it is. So it can work, but again, from what I understood, the only major thing about the M16A2 that people were excited for was burst fire. That was it.
Yeah, going back to the whole Arma 2 thing, me and Lad actually got an opportunity to play on a Arma 2 original mod server from our friend, and it was, I wouldn't say horrendous, but like if I had played Arma 2 from back in the day, I would have loved it. But I was playing it as a first time player. I couldn't stand it. It was incredibly difficult to even pick up a weapon. And that sounds really silly because I'm pretty sure a lot of people in the chat probably know how to do it, like, that. But, it took me like, a couple minutes to figure out the inventory system, that kind of stuff. And like DayZ is a learning curve. But I felt like going back to Arma 2 without all of the quality of life improvements was like jumping off a steep cliff and hoping I can get back up.
Yeah.
Yep.
But
even after all the synchronization issues with helicopters or vehicles in general in DayZ, I don't think adding helicopters would suit the game in its current state. I don't think the direction that the game's gone in would fit helicopters very well. As Dump said, you can go across the map in less than 5 minutes. It just almost breaks the game, I suppose.
At the end of the day, Arma 2 was a great game. Arma 2 DayZ Mod was an amazing game. It basically invented a genre or perfected a genre, but the gaming has come so far since then. It's a natural human reaction to look back at something. I've struggled to get into Red Dead Redemption 2 because Red Dead Redemption was such an amazing game for me. The story was one of the best storylines, if not the best storylines I've ever played. And my son bought me Red Dead Redemption 2 and I was excited for it. And I started playing it and it just didn't feel right because there was no main character in it. I know he's there as a bit player, but I've struggled to get into it, much to my chagrin. But what do you reckon, Gecko?
But I think they're not comparable, as you guys have been saying. But you can take inspiration from parts of it and try and bring that over to this game. There's no reason why you can't do that. I mean, Jad's doing it with he's looking at a 6.2 and he's picking out the bits that were competitive or even better than the features that are in this and putting over almost. So you can take inspiration from stuff like that. There's no reason why you either one or the other. There's no reason to be like that. So there's benefits in taking over.
I mean, this is the same thing with nostalgia with any video game you played in the past. I loved the game Gothic. Went back and played it. It's terrible. Can't stand playing it because I'm spoiled now with all my quality of life improvements. But that's the thing. Like any nostalgia game has that nostalgia, because it was your childhood. It was, young days or whatever. But, gaming's progressed hugely, made leaps and bounds, and we just got to remember that.
Yeah. I mean, don't get us wrong. Even though I heavily disagree with what Sada Players has said, I respect his right to say it. Like I said, I don't agree with it, and I've stated my reasons why. And even with Chad, going into create a mod that simulates the feeling of .62 gunplay, which is great. Again, that's a mod, and going back to what Dump said as well, Bohemia doesn't care about modders. They do, but modders saved the company. If it wasn't for DayZ, the company would be dead. It would be in the water. Like Arma 2 did not sell well upon release until the DayZ mod came out, and they sold over 1 million copies of Arma 2 very, very quickly once that mod was released. So they got a thing. Exactly, and they've really got to fucking. They really have to thank modders, and they did when they bought the rights to DayZ. And whereas you might have the impression they don't care, I mean, they do. They do care about the game. It's just their priorities have always been military simulation. Exactly. Always has been. I mean, how the first Arma game, it was licensed to military contractors before it came out to the public.
Oh, they're still doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, it's the most authentic military simulation you can really get. And the fact that the public get access to that's still really cool. But anyway, that's really besides the point. So